I am on a mission to get as many people as I can to slow down. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I've learned from the past that it all really starts with dismantling it within your own self to begin dismantling it within the world.
Hello, and welcome to the Connect podcast. This show is all about helping you connect to your soul's calling so you can take action on it. Because the sweetest success is a blend of discovering your purpose with the inner drive to bring it to life. I'm Sheila, health coach, lifestyle entrepreneur, and mom of two, best known for my online wellness programs, mentoring, and self-love passion. Listen in for inspiring interviews, solo chats, and Q&A sessions that will move you past overwhelm towards what lights you up. Stop accepting good enough and go for your version of great in your health, business, and relationships. Let's get started. Hey, welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to introduce you to today's guest because of the mission that she's on. Angela Accomando is a burnout coach, the host of End the Hustle podcast, and an advocate for victims of domestic violence. In 2019, she had a law passed to better help victims of domestic violence report crimes against them. Her own story of overcoming domestic violence is used in the NFL's Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Education Program for players. Angela is a mother of four and runs a coaching business to help women end the hustle in their businesses so they can create more impact and income without burning out. I found her story really inspiring because she made some serious changes in her life that are now helping so many others. You may see a little bit of yourself in her story. So sit back and enjoy the conversation. Hey, Angela, it is so good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
I was recently on your podcast, End the Hustle, and I love this topic because it feels like people are hustling now more than ever, taking on multiple roles all day long. And the work that you do helps women end the hustle in their business so they can create more impact and income without burning out. You have an intimate experience with burning out. So please share a bit about your background, where you were born and raised, and what led you to the valuable work you do now.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. This is one of my favorite topics because you know what? I really was having some hope that through COVID, we were going to get it and slow down. But I'm a born and bred New Yorker. And in New York, people just are going right back to the hustle. So I'm a little upset and let down with that. But so I was born and raised in New York my whole life. I had a bit of a unconventional, rough upbringing. And so I was on my own at 16 years old. And so in order to survive, I learned how to hustle really early on. And, I will say I did well, right? I had two kids by the time I was 18. I had started my own business, a cleaning business, and I had bought a house all at 18 without even finishing high school. And I worked really hard on my business, hustling. And in my early 20s, I completely burnt out. And I'm talking swollen glands, sick, like in bed all weekend long because I just worked so hard during the week. And the kind of work I did was also very labor intensive, going in, cleaning people's houses and offices. And I ended up getting into fire and water restoration, which was something that I worked really hard for 4 years to start working with a big insurance company and getting that contract. And that took my income. It, basically went from, 8,000 a month to anywhere from 20 to 50,000 a month. Right. So I was like, wow, I really got to where I wanted to get to, but I was still unhappy in my life, right? Which I couldn't figure out. Well, I got the house, right? I got the new house and I got the car and the vacations and I've reached the financial point I wanted to, but I feel horrible. And I'm like 23, 24 years old. So I started seeing a nutritionist because my older son was diagnosed with ADHD. And we had tried medicine. He didn't like the way it made him feel. And so I took him to a nutritionist, really liked the way, the work that she was doing with him. And so I started seeing her and, she was like, you are my ideal client. You do everything I say exactly how I say it because I was reaching, I was getting better, but I wasn't ever reaching 100%. And she had said to me, you have to figure out what is making you like this in your life. And I knew it was partly the marriage I was in was very abusive. And then the other part was just all I'm thinking about is how can I make more money? No self-care, no awareness at all. It's just at whatever cost I was willing to just drain myself at a very young age. It takes a lot to, get that sick in your early 20s,
It
because you can endure
does.
a lot.
Yeah. And you know what's so interesting about what you said as well, that I feel like so many of us can relate to, is it took your son requiring some help
Yes.
for you to get some help. We put
Yes.
other people before us. And I mean, certainly that is our role as caregivers, is to look out for those that are in our care. However, we can only best care for them when we're firing on all cylinders. So I think it's great that you went that route, and that, like she said, you were her ideal client because you did what she said to do.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't enough, right? Because I had to really change my
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle. So I leave the marriage, start all over again, leave the 6-figure business behind that I worked, 11 and a half years to get to that point, and left the house. We had rental property. I mean, I left everything. So now I made a promise to myself that as a single mom, starting all over after leaving everything, I was only going to do what made me happy. So I went to culinary school, and I went to a culinary school that focused on healing your body with food.
I love
And
that.
it's called the Natural Gourmet Institute. They actually don't exist anymore. They went out of business last year, the year before, but it was an amazing experience, right? So I
Mhm.
started getting healthy, even healthier with my food and teaching other people. But I was still hustling, right? Because now I was a single mom. Like, I still didn't get the hustle part, because now I'm a single mom and I have to provide for 3 children pretty much on my own. I was getting like little to no child support. So I started another business and again started to make money, right? Because I am full of ideas, right? So I'm the type of person that I never lack. What am I going to do? I
Mhm.
do it. It's just that I do it to a point where I push myself to a point that I get sick, that it's not healthy.
And that kind of business, the food business, oh my goodness, restaurants are nonstop go, go, go. I have a few friends who are chefs, and it's no joke.
It's no joke. And I actually didn't even work in a restaurant because I knew I didn't want to. So
Mhm.
I was doing like private chefing, catering, teaching cooking classes, but it's still a hustle. I mean, there's so many components to it. So again, I get out there and I create another business and I'm starting to do well. I didn't even need child support at that point. But again, I find myself in this really unhealthy place of just run down.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I completely burnt out with the cooking part that I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I had gotten into yoga and meditation. So that really helped me to create a lot of awareness in my life and begin to slow down. And, it felt uncomfortable, but also good at the same time. And that really led me to what I do now, which is my complete passion of just bringing more mindfulness into people's lives and more slow and detaching from the world that we live in, and making people, women especially, realize that just because we live in a society that says go, do, hustle, doesn't mean we have to. We can detach from that and choose a different way. So I started on this path with, yoga and meditation. And I was like, I don't want to do cooking anymore. This is really what I want to teach people. So I started out with like meditation. I became a certified meditation teacher. And then I wanted to grow that business. But what really brought me to the whole and the hustle thing was that whatever business I found myself in, I knew how to make money pretty much immediately. it was the whole part of constantly burning myself out and the go, go, go that wasn't stopping in my life. That it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I was like, I can't keep doing this. And it wasn't until I really read Kate Northrup's book, Do Less, and got involved in Origin that I was like, oh, there is a different way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to continue to hustle with everything I do, because it was like, okay, I got out of this, cleaning business thing. And of course, now I'm getting into something healthier, right? And it was like the cooking thing and healthy cooking, but the hustling stayed with me. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to leave that and I'm going to do, mindfulness and meditation and yoga. That's so much better and so much healthier. But then the hustle followed me with that. And I was like, I can't seem to get away from that part until I found a group, a community where we were all like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. And it's funny because it wasn't the whole End the Hustle thing didn't really come until like the end of last year. Right. So it was like the whole world was like, sit down, chill out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at home overwhelmed, like anxious and, scared and curious and like all these things going on. And my husband actually took over my father-in-law's restaurant. So I found myself back in this business, right? And I was like, but I'm not going to, we're going to do it differently. And luckily, COVID-19 actually helped us to do it different, because we're like, we're not going to be open 7 days. We're going to be open 5. We're only going to be open for dinner. And I learned how to just, I think one of the biggest things that I love to teach clients when I work with them, because it helped me the most, is Pareto's rule, the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Of really paying attention to what is working and do that and let everything else go. Because I'm even infusing it in the restaurant that we took over. Because even with that, I'm like, I'm not going to give up my coaching business and this movement, because this is like where my heart is at. But I also want to, I don't know how this is going to work in New York, but I also want to show restaurant owners that there's a different way to do business, even in the restaurant industry. Because you're right, it is one of the most toxic industries out there. I mean, it's like 24/7 constant. And even now that things are like slow, like I think we're going to go to full capacity in like a week in New York, a week or two, the 19th.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. And, New Yorkers, they're back on. They're like, oh, so are you going to be open Sunday? And I have to nicely say to them, as a matter of fact, a woman called the other day and she wanted to make reservations for Mother's Day. And I said, oh, we're not open on Sunday. And she goes, are you serious? I know that, but I mean, it's Mother's Day. I said, yeah, I know. And I gave her some names of some other restaurants. And she goes, like, you can make so much money. It's one of the biggest days of the year. I said, I know, but you know what? Family will always come before money.
That is
And I
so
hope,
beautiful. Oh,
yeah. And I
so
hope
good.
that she took that with her to say, wow, because you don't see that very much, especially in New York. Once you get out of New York and New Jersey area, it is a little bit of a different America. People are slower down south and Midwest and things like that. But certain areas, and New York is one of them, where it's just like a constant go. And, I just am like, how can I show the people around me in the different businesses that I'm into, that you can do it differently?
I'm going to be following this because I have a feeling, Angela, you're very persuasive. And
Mm,
the fact that you have this story of coming from a burnout situation and then saying, no, not again, and being able to thrive with a restaurant
yes.
business 5 days a week, it's true. Like New York is known for that go, 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 that vibe. It's always on. And there's a beauty to that. But then, of course, there's the other side that can impact our
Yes.
health so, so much. And I love, like you say, having a community of people who are feeling the same way as we are, to remind us, no, no, you're not crazy. We're doing it
Yes.
too. We believe in it too. And when the collective comes together to say we're slowing down, to really look within and see what's right for us, and not just how things have always been done, beautiful things will happen. And I've found that so often it can take a dramatic event, often not the good kind, as you've experienced, to slow us down and to wake us up to changes that we need to make in our lives. Another way more fun way to do this, though, is to plan and follow through with time away from the ordinary.
Yeah.
So you recently got away for a girls' trip and
Yep.
living in Toronto area, we're still locked down. So I'm craving something like this. I want to revel in your experience. So please tell me, how was your getaway? What did you do?
So it was great. And, one of the reasons why I also did it is because one of the things I'm working on that I think a lot that it's been a recent aha for me of why we hustle and we may not realize it is our controlling and codependent ways. So that has been a big revelation for me. And it was very uncomfortable to look at and to say, you know what? Like, so I purposely left, not only because I wanted to see my girlfriend, but because I was like, I'm going to go away for a weekend so I can feel uncomfortable away from the restaurant during the weekend where that's two of our busiest days, Friday, Saturday. And I did it on purpose to start detaching and to
Mm.
start letting go of my controlling ways, because what I found is that is part of my hustle is this doesn't have to happen. You're doing it because of your own codependency, your own, I got to control the situation, which is all just an illusion. So the getaway was great. It actually, I was talking to a friend about it the other day because it was actually a bit of a learning kind of retreat. So I stayed at a friend's house who I love, but I'm at a point in my life where I really know what I need to take care of myself.
Mhm.
And this getaway showed it to me even deeper. So I really need a really comfortable bed because sleep I have to get at least 8 hours of sleep, at least. And during the day, I even lay down, even if I'm not napping, but just to rest for
Mhm.
20, 30 minutes or whatever. And so she was very wonderful. And she had, her son moved out, went to college. So I was in his bedroom that she made a guest room, but the bed was really old and it creaked a lot. So it kept me up a lot. It wasn't very comfortable. And this was the first time that I went somewhere and didn't either go with my own car or I didn't rent a car. And I like to just do my own thing and kind of explore and look around. And, she's, I guess, not really into that as much. Even if things aren't open, I just like to see like, oh, what's going on? Just walk around and be at peace. And, she likes to listen to music very loud in her car. I don't like that anymore. It's just one of my things. So it was a bit of, okay, when I go away again next time, there's certain things I'm going to need, like my own space. I need to get a hotel room or an Airbnb, and I'm going to either need to come with my car or get a rental car, just so that way I'm having an enjoyable experience and I'm taking care of myself to the fullest extent, because that's part of for me getting away. It's like, okay, I need to get away from the kids, the husband, as much as I love them, the restaurant, the things on my to-do list, and just, decompress. But it was really fun to get together with people. We went to a vineyard and we did a little tasting, and then there was a wine festival down the road. So it was nice to kind of be in that atmosphere of, things that I knew, like,
Mm.
oh, yes, remember when we used to do stuff like this? So it
Remember
was,
when?
yeah, remember when? Remember when? So it was nice, but it also just showed me like what else I need in my life now at this point in my life to really take care of myself. Cause I think it would have been a much more enjoyable, kind of getaway if it was like, I have my own space, I have my own car, and like, okay, what are we meeting up to do? I'll meet you there and things like that. And then when I'm not, I could just rest or do whatever I want to do because I'm just at that place in my life where I have a lot of freedom in my business. Even with the restaurant, when we first opened and took it over, it took a little bit of effort to get things together, to get systems in place, to find the right employees. But I have a really good thing going on there now where I don't have to babysit it all the time.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, and yeah, just having that self awareness, allowing ourselves those things that we need that are going to support us and nourish us, whether we're at home or whether we're traveling. I know when I've taken trips on conferences, some people, when we would do these big conferences, it'd be like, "Ooh, you can share a room. It'll be fun." But I'm like you, I need my sleep. I need my
Yeah.
space. I need to be able to decompress, to journal at night, to do some breathing exercises, some prayer. And I can't do it when there's a room full of people or even just one other
Yes.
person. And it allowed me to really take in and be fully present for the very events and the connections with people that I was participating in. But times of getting away, though, and it's so good that you've learned these things. Times like this really remind us how important it is to break routine and do something just for the fun of it. We
Yeah.
do get so caught up in, well, what is the productivity and how much money will it bring in, and et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera. And it's like a grading system for our life almost, but
Yeah.
it's way more nourishing to put that aside and just renew ourselves. So, do you feel that coming back, obviously, you didn't sleep as great as you originally thought you would, but do you still feel like you have a renewed sense of energy and focus after being away?
Yes, because I wasn't worrying about any business stuff.
Hmm.
Even when I left, I had to really make friends with the controlling, codependent part of me that was like, well, what if? And I would just literally look at that part of me and laugh and be like, yeah, what if like the shit hits the fan? Like then that's what happens and that's it. And I think you have to get comfortable with that, because if not, it can drive you crazy, because things are going to go wrong. People aren't always going to be happy. That's just the way it is. Not a big deal. And I also had to see like my own people pleasing ways about me, and I've just been having fun with um making friends with that part of me, and like being able to joke with that part of me, like, yeah, and what's going to happen, like, then I guess that person's not happy, and okay, and that's not what I strive for, but I'm also not going to allow it to overtake me, because it can. But yeah, it did feel good to just because sometimes I'll even do that. I have a girlfriend that owns a house like an hour and a half from me, and it's her second home. So she's like, go up whenever you want. And sometimes, like a couple weeks ago, I went up there for a couple of days completely by myself. And it's nice because sometimes it's even like not even seeing your desk is a good
Yeah.
thing, because there's
Hmm.
just this energetic thing of I have to do this, or, there's something about completely removing yourself and going somewhere else, and where none of that stuff is, and just being there.
Especially when you have people at home who are depending on you, even when they know,
Mhm.
okay, I'm not available right now. There's just that inner nudge of maybe I should just check on this and maybe I should
Yeah.
ask that. And I know they're going to help out with this and that and they don't need me, but I am the mom, right? Like through all those voices. So separating ourselves completely from that space is so, so beautiful. And I love that again, you talked about how making friends with that part of yourself and having more fun with that fearful voice, that overwhelm that can
Yeah.
creep in and all those questions, because it happens to all of us. And I think humor is such a beautiful way to deal with it and to move past it, because
Yeah.
sometimes the things we say to ourselves, if we were to really stop and think about it, or if someone were to tell us what we're saying in our head, it would seem so far fetched. We would laugh. We'd say, come on, what are you thinking? So we do need to,
Mhm.
we want to trust ourselves, trust what our soul is telling us on a deep level. And at the same time, there's some thoughts we really do need to question. The ones
Yeah.
that are like far fetched fears that, let's face it, how many of these actually come true?
Yes.
And, it's so important to test that. And so in the work that you do now, what are some of the things that women you work with tend to struggle with the most? And what are some of the questions that you ask them to help them clarify how they're feeling?
So, one of the big things that a lot of my clients struggle with is just feeling like they always have to be working. And it's funny because I'm just thinking about one client in mind. And when I even start to go deep with her and ask her some of these questions, she's like, yeah, I get it. I have to go soon because I have to get back to work, and I'm like laughing and little, but it takes a lot of patience, because it is that deep, like patriarchal society that we live in, that makes us feel that way. We have to go, we have to be productive. So some of the questions I'll ask are, I usually go through like a little exercise where it's like, let's brain dump. Let's write down every single thing you're not going to question that is in your head that you think you need to do, that you think is a great idea, or you think has to be done. And let's write it all down. And then once it's down, let's go over each item and say, does this really need to be done at all? Like,
Mhm.
is it going to take me to my desired outcome? And if so, how? Right. So they have to explain to me how, because so often there's things that they think they need to do that when I walk them through, okay, but let's map this out. How is that going to get you? You know, or if it
Yeah.
is, because sometimes it can, but maybe they're missing a few steps, right? Like, oh, I'm going to go talk. Okay, well, have these talks at like, health fairs gotten you clients before? Well, no, not really. Okay, but there are people there looking for that. So are you telling them at the end of your talk, hey, I have 5 spots open. I'm looking to take on new clients and I would love to help you? Because sometimes it's just that they're missing. Like they don't
Yeah.
realize. And I said, people may think that you were just paid to go there and talk. People have no idea that you're looking for new clients if you don't tell them, hey, I'm looking for new clients and I could really help you out. Come talk to me, or take my card, or let's set up an appointment. So I'll go through that. Or and then another question is, does this have to be done by you, or can you outsource it in some way? Can a family member, a friend, a virtual assistant, or something like that do this thing? And I also tap into, how does your body feel about this? Because I
Mm.
wholeheartedly believe that something could be a fantastic, like strategy wise, it could totally make sense. But if you are not really feeling in alignment with it, doesn't matter how good the strategy is, it's just not going to work out. And I've seen that in my own life where it's like, but this was perfect. But you know what? Inside, I didn't really want to do it for whatever reason. That's why it didn't work out. So it's like, let's tap into, how are you really feeling about this? Because it doesn't mean you have to, and I explain this to them, like, you don't have to get rid of it forever. You can take it. Maybe it's just not the time now. Maybe it's just not the season now. So maybe you're going to take that thing. We're going to put it in your idea bank. And we're just going
Yes.
to put it there to revisit it, because people will get nervous. Like, I don't know, but I think it could be a good thing. You're right. It could be a good thing. So it helps them to just move things around and cross things out. Or people get very nervous if you're telling them to like completely get rid of something, because we're so attached to just the productivity
Yes.
that when they see only a couple things, it's like, oh my goodness, only those few things. Yeah, you'll be surprised just with those couple of things, the results they'll get you. So it's like, how does your body feel about this? Does this need to be done? Um, if so, how is it going to get you to your outcome? Let's map it out. Does it need to be done by you, or can you outsource it? And does it need to be done now? And, quarterly planning is something that I do a lot with my clients, because it's been a game changer for me, and really getting them to focus on no more than 3 goals a quarter. And I remember when I learned this, I was part of a mastermind and I was not ending the hustle at that time. So I would
Mhm.
try to put like a fourth thing. And the coach was like, which 3 things are you doing, Angela? And I was like, oh no, I'm doing 4. And she's like, no, you're not. And I could feel like the irritation arise in me. Like, why won't she just let me do this one other thing? I know I could do it. And she would be like, listen, I'm sure you could do it, but you can wait another week. And if you do too much, all the other things you're not going to do it as well. And I
Mhm.
learned that to be true. And sometimes it's not even 3 things a week. Sometimes it just may be 1 or 2 things, depending on what else I have going on that week, where my cycle is, where my energy is. And, that's something that I really walk my clients through. And also, I had to learn this because I have always been very type A. right? I mean, how could an 18-year-old that didn't finish high school get to the point she got to creating a six-figure business without being type A, right? So I used to be
Right.
like one of these people that always made a to-do list and I love checking it off. And then if I did something extra that wasn't on the to-do list, I would write it down and then check it off as if somebody was going to check the to-do list. It's crazy.
It's like an
So
addiction to, I think a lot of us, I can relate to this. It's like an addiction to accomplishment. And when you were talking
mhm.
about the whole, like, oh, I'm going to do four things instead of three, it's like we have this fear that either we're going to miss out on what this extra thing could accomplish for us, like you said, instead we're not going to get necessarily the quality of output from it. The outcomes will be much better if we focus in and put more of ourselves into the work we're doing and give us rest around it so that we can be more present with it. Because I do find that when you take your time working on something and you take space away from it, it actually lessens the amount of work you have to do on the back end, like backpedaling and editing or changing things around. You're taking a slower pace that's more intentional. And in that space of slowing down, you get even better ideas, and you actually have time to be really listening to people and seeing the things that are around you that could benefit the work that you're doing and benefit the people you're working with. But if you're just go go go
Absolutely.
so focused on that list, it's like the blinders are on, right? So what do those do?
Yes.
That helps us not see what else is around us. We can miss
Yeah.
so many opportunities for a later time by keeping
Yeah.
those blinders on. Oh, I've found that so much of moving into a healthier, more empowered version of ourselves really does involve challenging our belief systems. And that's one of them for sure. And I'm wondering, in your life, what were some of the belief systems that you had to uncover and shift in order to create a more manageable life? Are there other ones?
So a lot of my work on dismantling all of this within me, it's been a lot of like inner child work, right? Because the root of it has, for me, has come from I need to make sure I'm being taken care of because as a child, I wasn't well taken care of from the adults around me. You know, I grew up in a household with domestic violence, a mom that really struggled with her own trauma, you know, lots of trauma in my mom's life. And my father's life, you know, they divorced and remarried when I was like a year old.
Mm.
But a lot of the work, and even now when I start panicking, I have to go back to like, you're safe, you're taken care of, you know, you're not in danger, it's okay, because it's really this deep underlying, oh my goodness, I got to take care of myself. And being on my own at 16, you know, I didn't have, you know, parents that were like, oh, let me know if you need help with rent. Like it was like, I got to make sure I pay rent, you know.
Mm.
And you know, so that really leads to, you know, it's funny because if I told you my life story and all the things I've gone through, you'd be like, wow. But the one thing that really trips me up all the time is money, right? Which is really like having your needs met. So the minute money is shaken in me, right? Like things slow down or whatever, that's where I get a lot of panic from. And so I'm actually doing the 40-day prosperity plan that
Hmm.
Kate had spoken about
Yeah.
because I'm really trying to get back to what I deeply know, and that is money is not my source. You
Right.
know, it really isn't, you know, its source is my source.
Yeah.
And when I look back, I can see it in so many ways in my life, but I'm trying to go back and deeply connect to that again. So that way I can really let go of and not be shaken anymore with the whole money thing, because that is what leads me to the hustle, is the fear and the anxiety over money that goes to, you know, oh my God, there's a lack of, I have to make sure I'm taken care of because nobody else will. And, you know, here we go. Here I go on the hustle hamster wheel again.
Wow. Yeah, like that time of you growing up in a home that felt very shaky, and like you say, probably finances, I would imagine, were probably part of that whole mixture too. I think like every family has
Mhm.
some kind of dynamic around money.
Yes.
And yeah, returning to source, that's so powerful. And for you, it's very interesting because that's why having that success with money was something. It seems like you've never had a problem making the money. You had a problem with like not slowing down enough to enjoy it. And it's other people have a different struggle, but obviously, like you say, it was that child experience for you. And many of us, I think, are afraid to slow down in our lives because we don't want to address those things that happened to us in our childhood years. There can
Yep.
be a lot of a pain, and just we don't know if we go down that rabbit hole, will we be able to make it out the other side, or will we just, curl up in a ball, right?
Yep.
So I think it's wonderful that you're talking about that, and I hope that people listening feel really led to take some looks at back at their childhood, back at the things that impacted them when they were younger, because it is showing up now in different ways. It manifests
Yes.
itself in different ways. And Angela, I really think it's amazing that you took that experience from your childhood and your own personal experience and then went on to advocate for victims of domestic violence. And you
Yeah.
even had a law passed to better help victims of domestic violence report crimes against them, which you can imagine. I mean, I can only imagine how much fear and trepidation would be involved in reporting a crime like that. It just opens you up to so much vulnerability. So if you're open to sharing, um, what was that process like getting that law passed, and how did you move through it from an emotional space? What kind of support did you have?
So it was interesting because what actually moved me to do that is when I left my ex-husband, I really didn't want to have anything to do with anything for domestic violence, right? I was like, that's my old life. I'm starting over again. I'm doing a lot of work on myself. But I have one daughter, and she had found herself with a very abusive young man that she was dating. And that's, he had assaulted her in the city. And when she came back home, we went to file a report, and the police officer was like, oh, you have to go back down to the city to file the report. And it's very hard for victims. They're full of shame and fear to even
Yeah.
go to the police. So now you go to the police and they're like, oh, sorry, you have to go here. And I said to the officer, you got to be kidding me. This is 2000, and I think it was 2018. And I said, with email and all these other technology that we have, you can't just write the report and send it to the proper jurisdiction. He goes, no, that's not the way it works. So it was out of anger
Mm.
that I was like, this is BS. And I had went to my local domestic violence shelter, and there's, because I'd gotten my daughter connected with them to get away from this young man and get her support. And I said, we need to change this law. And they said, oh, that's something you'd have to talk to like the senator about. And I was like, well, where is he? And so they gave me his number, and I reached out, and, one of his staff member was like, okay, we'll be in touch with you. Then I went up to, it was Domestic Violence Awareness Day, and I went up with the domestic violence shelter, and they had said to me, I know we were supposed to have a meeting with him, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. We couldn't set up one. And I was upset because I'm like, this is why I'm coming up here. They're like, but we'll see him outside of chambers. But they're like, but we have to talk to him about our stuff. And I was just like, okay. So he comes out of chambers, and the representatives from the shelter were like, oh, we need money for this and we need money for that. And he was like, yeah, okay, okay. And then he's like, I have to go back in. And somebody said, can you take a picture with us? And he's like, yeah, of course. So I was like, this is my chance. Like, it was
Yeah.
just something in me. So I got up right next to him, and I put my arm around him and smiled as I was taking the picture. And like, in less than 60 seconds, I said, I have a law that I want to propose to you that will allow victims of domestic violence to report their crimes at any police station. And then that report can be forwarded to the proper jurisdiction so they can hide for safety. And he looks at me and he goes, I like this idea. I want you to come and talk to my staff member. And I said, I've been talking to her. I can't believe you don't know about this, because obviously she hasn't told you. So I go home, and the next day I was just exhausted from, we had talked to a lot of different senators and assembly members. And I woke up the next day from a nap, and I checked my email, and the senator had written the bill.
I
And
love
I
it.
was like, OMG. Like, I was waiting for like, okay, I'm going to have to follow up. It was just there. But then I was
Yeah.
like, okay, a bill is just like writing on paper. It's not a law yet. So there was a woman, and this is why I think it's so important to really help each other out. There was a
Yes.
woman in my community who got a law passed for something else, or organ donation.
Mhm.
And I reached out to her through Facebook. And it just so happened that my father in law helped raise money for her daughter that needed an organ donation. So she knew me through that. And I said, can I have coffee with you to pick your mind? I got Senator Carlucci to write a bill, but I need to know how to pass this. So I met with her with a pen and paper, and she was like, this is what you need to do. It took us 3 years, and I wish I knew all of this. And she was like, boom, 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 boom. You got to write a one sheet,
Amazing.
contact everybody, find out what committee the bills are in, go and speak to the heads of these committees and everybody you can that sits on these committees. And I did exactly that. And I went by myself to Albany, and I went to every single senator's office, one visit, and then a second visit I went to every single assembly member's office except for like 5. And within a year, we got that law passed and signed into law. Got that bill passed
Amazing.
and signed into law.
Angela, you are relentless. And that is what I
I
love
am.
about you.
I
It's
am
so
I've
great.
always been relentless.
It's like the flip side of the burnout though, right? Like, but
Yeah.
man, when you get set your mind to something that is so important, you will not back down. And again, you did it for your daughter. And in doing so, you did it for you. You did it for past and future generations. It's so, so good and amazing. A 60-second conversation is really what it took to get the ball rolling. So good for
Yes.
you. That is amazing. And, you know, here you went through that whole experience, and now your story of overcoming domestic violence is also used in the NFL's domestic violence and sexual assault education program for players. I just think it's amazing that you took something that so many would certainly not want to shine a light on. I mean, it took you so much courage to be so vulnerable, and it's helping so many people. Oh, your experiences have brought you to this place and have given you so much self awareness and compassion for others. And I want to ask you something that I think a lot of people struggle with as they're trying to grow without burning out. What is a big goal that you have that feels like a stretch, but you
Mm.
know you need to go for it? And obviously, I know that you have some big goals after these stories of things that have come up, and then you've beaten the path forward to make it happen. What does it look like for you? Like, what does going for it look like without hustling?
That's a great question. So, this is something I've really been leaning into lately because for a long time, I've been wanting to create an online course. And out of all the stuff I do, creating an online course and selling it is very scary for me, which I have to laugh at because I'm like, Angela, you have told a senator you need to write this bill. Like, I am fearless. And I'm like, you're allowing an online course to overwhelm you, but it's because um, I'm not allowing myself to have fun with it.
Mm.
So I made a decision a few weeks ago. Stop taking this so seriously. Like, have fun with it. You're going to mess up. All the businesses I've ever created, I've messed up. I've wasted money. Like, it's part of the process, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the process. So I'm like, why are you trying to act like it's not part of the process now? So that is my new goal, is to, create some type of, whether it's a monthly membership or an online course or both, where I really create a community of people that are like, I'm ending the hustle. I'm here with you. I'm going to do this. I know I'm not alone, and really just having fun with it and not being so serious about it, and throwing away, I've taken courses on how to do this, which have really been part of the reason why I felt so overwhelmed, because it's a lot of the courses I realized I'd taken were very masculine courses. And I'm like,
Mm,
that's why I'm not feeling good about it.
yeah.
That's why I'm feeling overwhelmed, because it's just not resonating with me. And so that's also part of it, is like just really embracing the feminine. For me, it's been really hard to embrace the feminine because growing up with domestic violence, the feminine was, and I get choked up just saying this, not safe. right?
Yeah. Mm.
So as I've been for many years trying to tap into the feminine, I've been like, no, 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 I can't do that. I can't do that, until I came across some teachers that were like, well, why? And I didn't realize why I was so afraid to tap into it. But of course, when I see my mother getting beat up as a small child, I learned at a young age, I can't be that because I'm not going to be safe. Right. So
Yeah.
now I'm able to say, it's safe to be feminine. We're going to
Mm.
balance this out. There's a place for a healthy masculine, right? Because I also never saw healthy masculine. I don't want to say never, because my great grandfather was an amazing example of a healthy masculine, but I saw so much unhealthy masculine
Mhm.
that it was like, I only felt like I could be safe by being very masculine. And
Oh,
when I
yeah.
was younger, I used to cry a lot, I'm sure because of the trauma. But I
Mhm.
also think because I just naturally had a lot of feminine and a lot of like empathic and, certain kind of energy. But I used to get in trouble for crying all the time from teachers, from, my stepmother and, family members. And so I'm allowing myself to get back to that again, where I'm going to embrace the cry and the sensitivity and, the feminine. And I'm really working with, really how powerful the feminine is. And being a part of Kate Northrup's, Origin membership and seeing how she does business in a very feminine way, has given me proof that, yeah, you can grow a great, successful business by doing less, by
Mm.
ending the hustle. Like, it can be done. She's showing you, because she continues to show up for us by going, I'm going to do it even less. Like, I'm getting even simpler and simpler. And so I'm going to walk into this, you know, digital, because digital is also very new for me, because all of my other businesses were more in person, so it's the digital kind of overwhelms me. And so a couple weeks ago, I was like, how can I embrace this? I got to have fun with it. I got to
Yes.
stop taking it so seriously, because it's not serious. I'm making it serious.
Yeah, and it's so true. Working with the feminine and seeing that there is so much power in the feminine, because the feminine is what connects us to each other. It's what makes us want to reach out and help. It makes us want to speak up for each other's needs and really
Mhm.
bring care and nurturing to the world. And yet, the masculine structure is just that. It's a structure that helps us get it done. So it really is a beautiful symbiosis of the two. And I agree, what we've been learning about over the years in Origin of having both and being able to really dance with it,
Yeah.
and like you say, have more fun with the process, because fun and laughter and creativity, again, those are more feminine, ethereal qualities, and yet they're ones that both men and women really, really enjoy. That's why we love comedies. That's why we like comedians. I mean, some of my favorite comedians are from New York. Come on. They're amazing. And I don't know where I'd be without humor through the
Yeah.
many years of different losses I've experienced. And in raising kids, let's face it, we need to have humor. So I'm so grateful
Yes.
for that. And really that nurturing of the feminine qualities and then having the structure of the masculine support, that is even tied into the work that I do in my soul driven self-care. Because
Mhm.
again, it's yes, looking within, but then also creating a strategy and a structure to be able to bring it to life. And the idea that we need to look within to do what's best for our health, our lifestyle, and relationships, and the way we take care of ourselves also shifts through the years and even during the season. So there's the structure coming in, like the natural structure of the natural world, right? So, what is self care looking like for you these days? Obviously, getting away, that was one thing that you did. And I love
Mhm.
that you get away just on your own as well. Like, thank God for
Yes.
friends who have extra houses. I have one of those and I love her to pieces.
Yeah.
And, what is lighting you up the most right now in your life?
Yeah. So self-care looks like many things to me now. So before I actually went on vacation, I also did a whole spa day by myself at an Ayurvedic spa that I just found like an hour from me. And I had some, great self-care then, but also just little things like my hammock now in New York, it's really, the weather's amazing.
Mm.
I get so relaxed, and my hammock is my favorite place. I love my hammock. Another thing is I bought a blow up hot tub, and all my employees at the restaurant crack up at me because, once I know, oh, you're good, everything's fine, I'm like, go into my blow up hot tub, I'm out of here. And it's really been amazing because, through COVID, I was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to go to the spa. I'm a spa girl. And in New York, we have a lot of Korean spas, which are amazing because they're very inexpensive and they have all these hot tubs and saunas, and you pay like $50, $60 for the day. And they'll
Wow.
have healthy food, and it's so inexpensive. And I stay for 12 hours. But since COVID, I do literally.
I love that. I want to go for 12 hours. I'm coming.
Yes. When friends come, I tell them, I'm like, don't come in my car, meet me there, because you're probably going to want to leave earlier, because I go at 9 a.m. and I leave at 9 or 10 at night.
Oh, so
but since
that's value right there.
Yes, that is. But since I haven't been able to go because of COVID, like now I think they're starting to open up, but it's still very limited. I was like, what can I do here in my house? So it was like $600 to get this blow up hot tub. My husband got it for me for Christmas, and we absolutely love it. We put a projector in my bedroom so I can just project TV, which doesn't sound like self-care, but for me it is, because being such a go person, one of the things I always like wore a badge of honor is, oh, well, I don't really watch TV. And I'm like, what's wrong with TV, Angela? There's nothing wrong with watching TV. So I've actually put TV time in my life. I'm not somebody who watches TV. Like my mom is a really big TV watcher. She'll watch it like almost all day. I'm not like that, but I have like a few shows that I really enjoy, and I take my time to watch those shows.
Mm-hmm.
Going for walks in the park.
Mm.
Just literally going slower, right? And feeling like the uncomfortable feeling of, wow, like as much as I've gone to, and I've done, 7-day silent retreats, but it's a different thing when you're going for that amount of time and then you go back to your life of going. And it's different when you're like, no, I'm trying to implement slow in everyday life. It's uncomfortable. So part of my self-care has been, my coach has me checking in with myself 3 times a day to say, what do I need right now? And it's been really helpful for me because honestly, sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what I need because I have given so much to everybody else that I don't even know. Right. So sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe lay in the hammock or a glass of water or just sit here and breathe,
Mm-hmm.
So it's really been part of my self-care, just standing still, being still, enjoying a cup of tea or something, and just sitting with the uncomfortable feeling of like, wow, it feels uncomfortable to be this still, but it's okay because I think that's what takes people away and makes them go, I really can't do this, is because they can't sit with that uncomfortable feeling of, this doesn't feel good to me. It's like, no, of course, because our entire society says you should always be going.
And like we should always be achieving and growing and getting to the next level. And it's incessant. And when we're saying that, it's like we're saying to ourselves, I'm not enough right now.
Yeah.
Right. It's like saying what I've accomplished is who I am, when really we are a beautiful divine creature that has been made in the image of God. That's what I believe. And I feel that when we focus on that instead, it allows us to have rest, because when we look around us at nature, we see that nature takes its time, right? It just, the blooms on the trees don't come in overnight. And I'm kind of glad because it's really fun watching them grow, right? And the flowers just come up very slowly from the soil. And so if we compare ourselves to that, because we are all part of nature, that can give us pause. And knowing that when we rest, we will have the ability to, when we put our hands to those things we're meant to be doing, we're going to show up in a much better, brighter, more grounded way. So, oh, it's so amazing. And I love the hammock. Hammocks are my favorite too. I don't have two trees close enough yet to be able to hang them. I have one I had planted. The trunk's starting to get thicker. So I'm getting
Oh, you
excited.
can get a hammock stand because that's what I
Yeah,
have.
that's
Yeah.
true. But I'd like to be in the shelter of a tree. I don't know. I don't enjoy it as
Yeah.
much. Maybe I'm afraid
Yeah.
of birds flying over me or something. I don't know. But I do want to say though, Angela, thank you so much for sharing your story and your passion to help us slow down and do what's most important. We really
Yeah.
need the reminders and the encouragement for sure. So, where can people find and follow you?
So I am usually on Instagram and I'm at Angela Accomando. So it's at ANGELACCOMANDO. I kind of left off one A on Instagram. And then on you could also find me on my website, www.angelaaccomando.com. So that's ANGELAACCOMANDO.com. And there's links there to schedule a clarity call. So if someone's listening and they're thinking, this sounds kind of good, I'm not sure, we could just talk about what it looks like to work together. But I am on a mission to just get as many people as I can to slow down. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I've learned from the past that it all really starts with dismantling it within your own self to begin dismantling it outside of you within the world.
So good. Well, these details will be linked in the show notes, Angela, and I'm grateful you could be here today. I look forward to continuing this conversation and seeing so many more lives improve.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was a great conversation.
So, for those of you who are listening, thank you for tuning in. How did Angela's story land with you? I think it's going to be resonating with me the rest of the day as I let it sink in. She's shared so much good stuff with us. Do you want to rethink your schedule and how you're approaching your days? Angela and I would love to know. So please screenshot and share this episode and tag us on Instagram at Sheila A. Botello and at Angela Accomando. And let's end the hustle together. Big blessings. Thank you so much for being here with me on the Connect podcast. If you like this episode, please share it with someone you think would enjoy it. Also, if you head over to iTunes to leave a review, I'd be so grateful. Let us know what your favorite parts were and what you'd like to hear more of. It will help us have a greater impact, elevating many more people to grow and succeed together. See you next time.